was too hot at first. I was.
Well, it wasn't like last time, though.
All right, it's 7:15. I'll call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, January 17th. And whenever you're ready, could you please take the roll?
Crombie.
Here.
Hendrickson.
Here.
Malat.
Here.
Reed. Here. Rule.
Here.
Tome.
Here.
Trexler is excused.
This meeting has been noticed appropriately according to state statutes. The next item is to approve the agenda. The agenda has been amended to remove number 6, and I talked to Patrick, and he said if the council wants, we can table number 9, number 14, number 16, if they wish to do so. Unless you'd like to have a longer meeting.
I'm okay with tabling.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you're
Thank
okay
you.
with tabling, then I'll
Yep.
take a,
Alderman Toma, just in wondering what's going on outside and the conditions outside, that's why. And
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So unless anyone is opposed to those, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda with 9, 14, and 16 being tabled till the next meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Citizen comments on agenda items. Bill, has anyone signed up? Thank you.
Nice.
I believe all 4 that are signed up are for the same issue, correct? For the signage? JD?
I want to speak on 16.
On 16?
Yeah.
It's been tabled.
But can I make a citizen comment?
Sure.
The property maintenance update, just so you know, I have been an outspoken person statewide for about 16 years on this issue. And I believe that the most effective property maintenance inspection systems use a stick and/or a carrot approach. So if you enact some type of ordinance that you punish one property and hit them with a fine, I hope that that money stays in the same budgetary item to promote a carrot. And so in many towns that I've spoke to over the years, if there was an issue where there was a building that had problems and the building was fined, you would lead by example, and those fines would be used for sign grants, facade grants, or some kind of way to show how to do it better than the stick approach. Now, I say that because most of the municipal code ordinance law is written as a stick approach. So I just wanted to speak to that issue, and I've been an outspoken critic of that for many years across many downtowns and communities. So, there's no right or wrong, and it's a real contentious issue, but I would hope if you lead by example and show something good, that will take care of maintenance issues. So I just wanted to make that comment on that one. So
Thank
not
you.
a positive or negative. So.
Thank you, JD. All right. Everyone else was here to speak on the same issue, correct? Thank you. And did you want to speak now, or did you want to do it while we're discussing the agenda item? What's your preference?
Oh, Matt's our man.
Matt's coming down the hallway.
Okay, these are lead spokespersons.
Matt, did you want to speak during citizen comment or during the agenda item?
Order of the council.
I think it would probably be better during the agenda item. Okay, we also have department reports, which are written reports only. Any questions on those? Seeing none, then we'll move on to number 7, which is consider letter of engagement with Baker Tilly for a sewer rate study and review for future capital projects. This was discussed at our Finance Ad Hoc Committee meeting, I believe. Kim is here if we have questions.
Was there a recommendation from the ad hoc committee? I guess I would start there. I was unable to attend that meeting.
I think there's a brief outline in here, but I think part of the discussion involved not just sewer rate study for needs right now, but also to look at the sewer rates and how they would affect future large capital projects like street projects. I think that we've kind of addressed that in the past as a $500,000 annual capital improvement for road replacement. But when we're replacing roads, we're also replacing water utilities, sewer utilities, and all the other infrastructure that goes with. So then, you have to kind of put that out into an extended plan as well. And I don't think we had been maybe doing that with the anticipated street reconstruction project. So I thought we saw some value in including kind of a longer view on that and how the rates would need to look to allow us to do that, so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
President Tome?
Yep.
Just a quick comment that's related, but not known at the ad hoc committee. The representative from Baker Tilly mentioned that, and we know that every 2 years we are required to do a sewer rate study. And we had one done in 16, and with the discussion and information from Baker Tilly, and considering some of the extra information that we're looking for, we would, if approved, we would go ahead in 2017. We've confirmed that then we would not be required to do one in 2018. So this would count essentially for the 2018 rate study.
Okay. All right, are we fine moving this ahead then to the next regular meeting?
Yep.
All right. Then it's on to number 8, which is consider authorizing proceeding with the refinancing of the remaining 2007 general obligation bond and adding it to the 2017 general obligation bond, and to authorize proceeding with the 2017 sewer utility revenue bond for the James Street and other projects. Mayor Crombie, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the Water and Light Commission at our last meeting authorized paying off a small amount of general obligation bond, which would free up a small amount of capacity. But just wanted to bring that forward.
Thank you. Does everyone have an understanding of what we're talking about on number 8 here? I mean, the James Street sewer utility revenue bond has been anticipated, with the project coming this year. And then the refinancing of the 2007 GO bonding. So there's some savings there as well. Rod, go ahead.
Just to piggyback on the mayor, Water and Light would be paying off $110,000 in principal and $4,200 in interest.
I'm okay with moving this forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
President Tome, can I just chime in quick? I think I want to have Kim just come up because there was something between the finance committee and now related to just how it should be structured in discussions with Ellers. So
Okay.
she can explain that just to make sure you're on the right page with that.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What you have before you is kind of a recap of what we talked about on January 5th. It outlines what's going to be included in the sewer utility revenue bond, which, like we've been talking, is primarily James Street with some other lift station and generator work. One of the things in talking with Ellers is that the purchase of the trucks is not by the state bond statutes allowed to be a bond. And there's a difference between a bond and a note. A bond is a 20-year repayment schedule, a note is a 10-year repayment schedule. Because of the type of equipment we're purchasing, the bond statute only allows us to go to a 10-year maximum repayment schedule. And that's primarily because of the life of the item is anticipated to be roughly 10 years. So what we would end up doing is, if you look at the bottom, working with Greg from Ellers, we would actually be looking at 3 separate borrowings instead of 2. We would be looking at 2 bonds. One would be the revenue bond, which would be the utility work, and then the general obligation bond, which would be the James Street project cost and the TIF 4 utilities that we've already talked about needing to be at least a 20-year repayment. And then a general obligation note, which is the 10-year repayment, which would be the truck purchases, which, hearing the news tonight from Davis, that's nice that we may not need all of that $440,000, so I'll touch base with him and update those numbers. But then that small piece of refinancing for that 2007 general obligation bond would be added to that truck purchase number, and that would be our general obligation note that we would be going forward with. And that's really the only wrinkle. We just had to split that out because of the fact that it was a truck purchase.
Thanks for that information, Kim.
You're welcome.
Rod?
We'll be paying slightly higher rate then for that, obviously.
No,
We won't.
we'll be paying I shouldn't say that I know what the rate would be, but we'll be going to market with all of these, so we'll be getting the best rate in that competitive market.
Oh, okay, so even though it's split out, the percentage and everything is going to be about the same
I would think so.
within, okay.
I think it'll depend on what the market is and how the bids come in for the bonds. We already have some interest in the bond for the TIF 4 utilities from local banks that are part of a community development program, so.
When were we thinking about doing that?
Well, if this gets moved forward, it will get moved forward in the form of a resolution to authorize the borrowings. And I think, did everybody get a copy of the timeline in your packets?
I believe so.
It would have, it's just a calendar at the top that Ellers put together, but, yeah, that's it, right there. So that's basically what we would be following going forward. So the resolutions authorizing the borrowings would come to the next regular meeting if this moves forward tonight. And then there's a legal process that will follow from there. The bonds are sold, there's a 30-day waiting period, and it's basically laid out that way.
Okay.
And Kim, I assume you're comfortable with the 10-year part of this? I mean,
Yes.
as opposed to, we're going to be okay in expediting that, I guess. I can't find the right word as far as,
Yeah.
we're going from 20 to 10, and you're comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that, and I think from what Greg and I were talking about and some of the preliminary numbers that he was running, it looks like splitting this may be a blessing in disguise, in the sense that the structure of our debt repayments may allow us to take on some additional street work in 2018 with less of an impact to our overall debt program. So it's kind of a good thing.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
You're
Kim, I
welcome.
had one more issue I wanted to ask you about. In past conversations we had about the TIF 4 utilities, I know I expressed concern anyway about making sure that, that portion of the debt, you had said Ellers was able to kind of shape the repayment schedule so we knew we were going to be able to time,
Right.
to kind of set it back a little bit, I guess. We won't have the increment right away, but hoping that the payments are shaped that way. Is that still part of what Greg is
Yes.
planning to do?
Yes.
Okay.
And the nice thing about this is what we can do is we can create a payment schedule that puts the James Street repayment a little quicker, and then structure it so that the TIF 4 repayment is back-ended, so that it gives that TIF a chance to begin to be cash-friendly.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this? Good to bring this forward to the next regular meeting then?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Okay, and then we are tabling number 9. We've got 10, 11, 12. I assume Jason's here for all 3 of those. We've got task orders with Rupert Milkie for 2017 James Street sanitary services, also street maintenance following that, and then the sewer collection system maintenance. Hey, Jason.
Happy New Year. I
Thank
didn't
you.
get to see you last meeting. I hope Dave from R&M treated you well and everything
Always.
went good, so I appreciate the night off. I guess definitely got a few things on here for R&M. A couple are kind of routine annual things. The James Street task order comes before you, kind of on the heels of what you're looking at for the borrowing and the resolution for James Street. With the James Street task order, this will cover essentially all of Rupert Milky's related services for the overall project and for the sanitary sewer construction review and administration process part of this project. If you recall, it's obviously embedded into the DOT's project, but our responsibility is obviously for the local utility component of that. What we obviously have here is a task order that includes the construction staking and the construction oversight of that component of the job. And if you've looked at it, the one thing that's a little unique to this task order is, and I'll kind of go over that, is a DOT coordination phase. I had some discussion with staff at the level of, we do understand that the DOT will have entire oversight of this project. We understand that they will have inspection on site. We understand that they will have project managers on site. But we are anticipating some level, obviously, of city coordination with staffs, attending some meetings and some other things that'll occur throughout the project. Now, we're not anticipating that that's going to be a high level, but we did put a number in here based off of what we saw from the public response on this year's project. Now, we do think that there was more outreach, and this obviously has been a project in more planning. So we're not anticipating on using, or at least I'm not anticipating on using that much budget in this much time, but we did proportion a number in there, and I think that's one of the lessons learned that we're going to talk about in a future meeting. So we just wanted to make sure that we had that covered, and obviously, we only obviously bill what we spend or what we're required to be on site for. So again, it's just kind of a placeholder in there for this contract. There are some GIS updates in here as well. You have a GIS system. There's a lot of infrastructure going in with this particular project, so we'll be obviously updating your system with all that pertinent information at the end of the job too. So that's obviously one of the nice things about having the GIS system is when you have large projects like this, you can ensure that the information is current in there. So rather than having that as a separate item, we did put it in here as well. So you'll obviously see the DOT coordination component to this. You'll see the construction services, again, that covers the entire project for the review and the inspection and the construction staking, and then the GIS component of it. So those three pieces make up this total task order. It is labeled 2016 on the task order. I think I had done it and prepared it late in December, and I don't think it made it onto this agenda, so just wanted to let you know that it's something that we've been working on for a little bit, meeting with staff and kind of putting together what our level of effort will be. So if anybody has any questions specific, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
I have none.
Okay. Thank you. Which is the next one? Street maintenance. So moving forward on street maintenance, this is, I think, Alderman Traxler is out tonight. I know he had asked at one of the last discussions where we were at with the upcoming street maintenance component. Obviously, annually we always do the maintenance component in close conjunction with the Public Works Department in Davis. Last year, we had a change a little bit with some of the slurry sealing and the methodology, and we've discussed that at council to some degree as to kind of what the history of the maintenance has been and what we've currently been looking at. And obviously, we're doing well on the crack sealing component. We shifted some of the funds. I know that we did have some high bids that came in last year, and there was some money that we kind of rolled over into the new budget a little bit to kind of counteract or to continue to do more of that work. So this task order does cover all of that for this year, and we bring it forth at the beginning of the year like we do every year, so we can kind of get a jump start on it and put together the plans. We do have to kind of wait till we get the ice off the roads, and we can kind of make an evaluation of which roads we want to target. So again, back to the question of Alderman Traxler, we don't have the list yet, but what we'll do is work closely with Davis, and we'll bring that back prior to doing the work. Typically, we'll always coordinate that with Water and Light to make sure that any maintenance, if they have concerns or patching or something they need to do on a system improvement, that we do that prior to the maintenance component. What we are planning on this year is obviously doing Some crack sealing, probably again, a lower amount of that, but usually we obviously do that as part of the maintenance project. So we do have a separate project document that we bid out for that, again, just specifically because that's a separate set of contractors. We are proposing again on doing some slurry seal overlay. If you remember, we have a lot of rated 7 roads that are, ready for slurry seal. So we'll be doing a project for that. Both of those will be included into this. That's design and the oversight and the bidding component of it. This is an odd year, not odd and strange, but odd as in 2017, which means it is your required Whistler rating year. So that also was included in the level of effort here. So that's to go out and to rate your 27 miles of roads, obviously to prepare the spreadsheet and then certify it with the Department of Transportation. So we have that in here as well. And then lastly, we do have an update to what we call the 5-year plan in here. I don't know specifically what that means yet in terms of what you're looking for a council. I think last time we had talked about the update. We did a lot of evaluation and preparation for the actual street projects. It wasn't really an update to the report as much as it was identifying needs for your road projects. And I think we have a lot of that as base information going forward now. I left a dollar amount in here to compile that in some way or to reevaluate that in some way that you might feel necessary. So again, this task order really covers those 3 components related to the street maintenance piece.
Real quickly, Jason, if I can
Yeah, go ahead.
ask you, the 2017 Whistler ratings, do you have a time frame on when we'll have that data?
Well, it's always kind of tricky. I know that the council tends to like that rating information earlier in the year to make decisions. I tend to like to push it off a little bit so we can get the maintenance work done on the streets that we pick, so then we can update the information or the inventory system so it's current or accurate to that point through this maintenance cycle. So we can certainly do both. I think we can rate it ahead of time and then come back and just touch up those identified streets that we do the work on. Crack sealing generally won't change a rating number, slurry seal may. So we'll just have to identify what that is and change it. But we do have to get out of the freeze-thaw cycle, so we really do have to get into kind of May when we're not going to see displacement of the cracks. The roads start to heal up and settle back in a little bit, and then we can really kind of get an accurate rating. So I would say early summer, maybe May going into June would be the time I would expect to have that rating work done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are we necessarily committing to a specific product or how you're going to divide the budget up with this task order? And the reason I ask that is because I know we're having kind of the follow-up meeting shortly to go over the street projects, but I thought that might be an opportunity for you to discuss options with council as we, kind of look at how we want to expend those funds.
Right.
and what the cost and benefit is of each one, so.
Right now, the way this is bid, we said crack seal and slurry seal. To me, it's 2 contracts, 2 separate bids. It could be mill and overlay and crack seal. It could be slurry seal and mill and overlay. It could be patching. I mean, we can break it up however we want. It just accounts for 2 different methodologies in the street maintenance component. We've done 3 in the past, but we find that we get a little bit of money spread out over 3, where it seems to make a little more sense lately, where we've been getting larger amounts of work done and combining it into 2 methodologies related to the street component. So entirely up to you guys, but I've priced it for 2. And what those 2 are, it really doesn't matter to us.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions on that one?
Okay, the last one that I have is another maintenance project. This is the annual sewer maintenance collection system repair project. Again, every year you guys have budgeted a fund through the sewer utility to do improvements to the collection system. Primarily it's lines and manholes, it's coating manholes. We've done dig and replace of connections, it's infiltration related, it's reducing the flow reaching your plant. This is all predicated on the televising that your staff does at the treatment plant. They provide all the video information and select the components and basically provide it to us, where we can package it up, prepare a set of documents for the contractor bidding process, and then we can bid that out. We did attempt to do this last year with a bid late in the year. If you remember, we weren't successful at getting anybody to bid it. It was some manhole work down by the pool, some rework of some lines down there. What we had decided, I guess the direction at that time was to reject the bids and basically recombine everything into a new year after we had the new televising done. If you remember that, the televising has been done, and the wastewater staff has sent me some additional candidates in addition to last year's project. So we really have that plan last year shelf ready. We have to just dust it off, clean up some dates on it, and then add in some additional features that were identified by the department at the wastewater plant, and then we're ready to basically hit the street again and bid this back out. The cost in our contract obviously is to do that effort to amend what we currently have, bid it, and then go through the construction process again. We'd like to get that out much earlier this year, so that's why you're seeing me here this first meeting to basically say we can turn this around fairly quickly and get the bids out first thing to ensure that we can get some good, accurate interest in bidding in this project. So,
Jason, is this the type of task order sewer collection system repairs where we would normally do like slip lining in this, or is that more maintenance? Or I know that traditionally we've spent certain dollars every year doing the slip lining. Are we doing this year in lieu of that?
well, every year it's kind of like the roads. Every year it's been kind of a combination of things. I remember several years ago, and I'd have to go back and look, but it was probably 5-6 years ago. The city staff had recommended, and I think the entire budget was spent on basically redoing the chimney seals on manholes. So basically cutting out squares around the manholes, putting seals on, rebuilding the frames and castings. We did a lot of them, and that's how the money was spent. We've done a lot of lining in the past. That's been kind of, some years that's kind of the chosen method just based off of the televising reports. If we see a lot of root intrusion or a lot of infiltration, that makes a lot of sense. There's, in this particular case last year, I think there's actually 2 sewer lines by the pool that run fairly parallel. One's in really bad shape. And they chose to basically reroute the one line into the second line and eliminate or abandon the one line because there are no connections on it. So that's kind of a dig and repair, what we call. And so really it comes as a whole host of things as recommendations from the water utility staff or wastewater utility staff back to us. And so we just package it up kind of whatever the preference that they feel is the best bang for the buck. And again, that's been predicated, I think, the last 4 years now off of they're televising over 15 to 20,000 feet of sewer every year in the system. And so they're getting a lot of videos to look at and identify problems. And so I'm not sure exactly. I think might be some manhole replacements. I had heard that there's some, don't quote me on this, but I heard in this last video run they had 70 manholes that are still brick, not like block, but actual brick. And they're in pretty bad shape. So I think they're going to look at just replacing some of those brick manholes. The issue becomes tying that with the streets. So are we replacing brick manholes in, old streets that we might be reconstructing, or do we pick brick manholes in streets we might be doing maintenance on? So we really have to identify, but I think we have more than enough bad manholes to pick from to update. So I think that's the focus that I'm hearing this year, is just focusing on manhole replacements right now, just due to conditions of those structures.
Okay.
A lot of those manholes have bricks that start to fall in over time, or water leaks through the brick and erodes, and that's where we get some of our infiltration from that gets into our system as well. So obviously that's kind of a twofold.
Thanks, Jason. Any further questions? Ready to bring that one forward as well next week? Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason. All right, up next then is to consider construction signage for the 2017 James Street project with the DOT. Patrick, I know you had sent an email out to the group to come in and discuss this with us. I don't know if you wanted to head it off or how you want to.
Yeah, it is 2017, and it matches the date in which James Street is going to start. So it's timely. I know that there's been a lot of time put in over the last year and a half, a couple of years actually, with folks in the business community, the ones most affected by the upcoming project, on just coordination and communication and learning about what's coming. And one part of that is doing what we can to ensure that folks know that Columbus is still open for business during the project. Which brings us to this particular issue. Is what methods, what thoughts do we have in relation to signage? And I know among staff at a couple of the development team meetings, we've talked about this. I think there's some opportunities, and we've had conversations with the DOT about signage out on the outskirts of the city to make sure that people know they can come in and access their business stops within the city. But the groups that have been meeting have been talking about signage. I know that plans are coming together, and I thought it was important that, if some of the plans, how they meld with our ordinances and how do they work with, what's normal in a summer that's going to be completely abnormal. So I thought that we needed to open a dialogue and discuss that. So, and obviously you can see folks are here, they're interested in contributing and wanting to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
It seems like the issue then of having signage out on the outskirts along Highway 151 is going to be more of an issue with the DOT then. I mean, we're going to have to comply with their rules and communicate with the DOT on that, but are you looking for more of a, in the city, what are we willing to allow?
Yeah, what's
Discussion.
appropriate. I've sat in on a couple of the meetings, but not all of them. I know Dave Carlson has been heavily involved, and I just think it's important just to hear their perspective. Obviously, they've signed up to talk, so
Sure.
just so you know what they're thinking, and if there are pros and cons and things we need to do between now and when the first shovel hits the pavement, we can do it.
Sure. I don't know if you all wanted to come up at once and speak or individually. It's your preference, but I've got Ed Schellen signed up. Matt, you didn't sign up. You're not allowed to talk. I'm just kidding.
Want to make sure I got back in here. Hi, I'm Ed Schellen. My comments are going to be brief. Somebody once said an elevator speech. I'm going to use the aviation analogy here as, you're going to go down for a flight, you show up, boom, you get the flight, and you land. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it, hours of boredom, but what you're going to remember is the landing. There's been a lot of heavy lifting done by yourself and your predecessors to get to this point in this construction project. The only thing is that you guys are the pilots on the landing. You want to make sure the landing is good. One of the items, and I'm not sure if number 13 has anything to do with it, but construction signage is important. And as an affected business person down here, but there's going to be businesses much more affected than mine by traffic, foot traffic, and vehicle traffic, being able to keep Columbus open. And I like Pat's analogy of open for business. Because if it closes, it's going to be twice as hard, 3 times, 10 times harder to get it reopened again. So the important thing is to keep the lifeblood going, keep that person resuscitated. I'm getting off on another analogy there, but the bottom line is flexibility. If the Common Council, I'd like to see them embrace, from the businessman's point of view, an environment of support and inclusiveness for the businesses. There might be some times that maybe ordinances have to be adjusted, modified, or lifted. Heck, we do that every summer during the 4th of July. We'll let's say, lift some strict enforcement of ordinances. We won't wipe them out, but maybe not strictly enforce them, to allow a public good, a project, to proceed successfully. So as pilots, I hope we all have a good landing, because we're all in this together.
Thanks, Ed.
I'll turn it over to our expert.
Well, a lot of poetry. Now for the hard numbers, I guess. And thanks, Ed. I wanted to be sure that he got a chance to speak as a contributing member of our group, voicing his opinions and kind of his from a different side, bringing that information to us, and also to kind of speak for the businesses who aren't here. I wanted to have him start off here. Bear with us, we haven't had a meeting for a little while with the holidays and whatnot, so I'm going to kind of pepper you with some just random pieces to add on to the future conversations that you guys are going to have. As you're aware, DOT project coming up, big surprise. We have 2 stages. It's going to kind of break it right down the middle of the 4 corners. Patrick stole a fair amount of what we were going to talk about tonight, but the DOT plan will have detour signage far out from Columbus. Here in Columbus, it will have pedestrian signage and kind of some local road signs indicating that it's closed. There's construction barrels. We're all aware of that. The one kind of missing piece is what we are for is business signage to get people into Columbus and to indicate kind of how to get around. DOT is really good about showing you that the road's closed, and if you're a truck way out on the main highways, it gets you around, but sometimes for local areas, it can be hit and miss based on plan to plan. So kind of jumping into that, I think our idea was kind of to do like a local detour and to put signage up. We have parking here in Columbus. There are parking lots. The problem is getting people from out into Columbus and into those parking lots. So once we have signs up, this is kind of some examples of what we've seen. We have numbers from a couple different sign fabricators for examples. Bear in mind there is restrictions that the DOT does have for letters and colors and whatnot, but this kind of gives you an idea. These signs like this were seen in Waupun this past year that helped out for a lot of their local access. So to kind of get into a couple things we want to hit on for the signs, like I said, we have money. We have a rough estimate of what that might entail. We can get better numbers for you. One of the questions we kind of have is contributions by the city, whether it be from one of the groups or the city itself, to help get people into Columbus into the parking lots, and then individual businesses themselves will then be able to purchase their own signs to kind of be put up around the city to indicate getting from a parking lot, walking over to their actual business. Kind of a joint effort between the city itself and then the businesses. Kind of we're both putting skin into the game. So kind of a conversation of what that might look like or where that might come from. Something that we obviously can't talk about. There are permits that will be needed by the businesses to acquire these signs. We've talked about having packets put together with kind of some general information, one of which is examples of how to fill out the appropriate paperwork that will be provided to the Department of Transportation. It is a little confusing. It seems really scary. You do it once. It's actually really simple. To kind of save that whole process, just kind of have these packets for all the downtown businesses and say, here, if you choose to put your skin in this game, if you're going to get involved, here's how to make it easier for yourself so you can jump right on in. And there's always a learning curve for the first couple of weeks when it comes to projects. As we'll hopefully try to cut some of that back for them and not have any impact for their first month of sales or whatever it may be. Again, packets might be a little bit of cost to print them all off, get them developed. We talked about, obviously, groups passing them out, having block leaders, block captains to kind of work to engage other businesses and get out the information. Still kind of working through that. Something else to bring up, JD did mention, there is a City of Columbus permit. Okay.
I mean, you have the attorney here, but let me share a little bit of I actually wrote some of this model municipal ordinance on sign permits. So, your issue is equal application of the law. So somebody puts up a sign and it's one of these, and are they going to pay a $50 permit for a $10 sign? And then someone else puts up a permanent sign. So you have two issues because you have the application process, it's $50. Isn't it 50, Dan?
No, it's
10?
less than that. But you're talking mostly temporaries.
But you don't have a temporary sign, do you? And then the other part is you have the historic district overlay.
But we have, whether it's a historic district, I'm sorry.
Please.
Sure, go ahead.
We need the experts.
Because Ann and
These
I,
things all day long.
sure.
You have to remember that if you're talking outside of the city limits, you're in two different counties, and we can't help you get permission to put things up in the town of Elba, or the town of Columbus, or Dodge County, or on the state's right-of-way. But in the city, on the city's right-of-way, we can. There are provisions for temporary signs. What you're trying to do, though, is have off-site signs, which are generally not allowed. So these are the things that you're gonna have to be looking to get permission from the city council to do, because off-site advertising isn't allowed as the code is right now. Temporary signs are, but for 30 days, so you'll have to get a waiver for having them up longer, which is doable. And we're gonna have to have a little bit of a plan on where they can go, because you can't be putting them on some of the public right-of-ways, because they'll be under construction, and we'll have to work with the DOT too, but then we'll have to be making sure that the places you wanna put them, if they're on private property, that it's gonna work out okay.
And the current plan right now, as part of what we developed for the city signage, is we kind of have our own little mini detour, looking at what the construction stages
Well, I
will be.
understand that you've
And then
got a
having,
plan.
and part of that is having posts and then.
But we
and
haven't
then-
seen it, so I can't.
Yeah,
but-
and
but
that's
we have to look
part
at that,
of the
and
information that we can
that's why
provide.
you have to come and get a permit, even for temporary signs, is to make sure that you're not taking advantage of somebody else or doing something we're not allowing other people to do, and making sure it's a little bit more cohesive and uniform. So it's all, our goals are the same as yours.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you've got to bring it in, and you can come up with a plan, but you got to sit down with the city and make sure that it's going to be something they can support as okay with the whole city, not just with,
Yeah, and
one
I think
person.
that's kind of what the idea is
Yeah.
right now with us, is approaching you now that we've kind of
Yeah.
sludged through it a little bit and say, we got some stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, more information is needed for appropriate vetting and whatnot, but if it's anything like Waupun, we're gonna see shovels in March, so it's
Oh, we
definitely.
expect that.
If we have if the frost comes out and whoever it is gonna be, it's Michael's, they're gonna wanna hit it ground running.
Sure.
It's gonna happen sooner rather than later, so,
We're
put a
aware.
little coal in that fire.
That's
and
what we've
why
been
we're here.
asking. What are they going to do about signage? We
Yeah.
should get you guys in here so that we can all be on the same
Yeah.
page.
And then obviously, we can try to package this up and put it into a more presentable,
Perfect.
information. So, but I just want to say, we just want to kind of get it on, I said, we're last minute, we're told, come to the city council. and
Well,
produce
yeah, so we can
information
just
and
go
stuff,
right
so.
down the list. We're
Yep.
going to need a variance for this, and this, and
Yeah.
then everybody's sign's going to fit into the same parameters, size, shape,
Yeah.
location.
But obviously, there's some things that are going to be a little bit more straightforward, but obviously for permitting for historic and for city permits, it's going to be a little bit trickier based on, I know Dave mentioned that wording in the permit, or the variance from the ordinance might allow people to put a permanent sign up. There's going to be a little
No.
bit of wordplay that will need to be
Well,
done.
we'll have to, if you are looking at a permanent sign, we'll have to do that through the normal.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a temporary construction sign, it shouldn't matter if you're in the historic district or not, if we're doing it all the same for everybody,
And I'll tell you, when I did downtown development, what we usually did is we would,
back in the day.
yeah, with the state for 16 years, and before towns got sued, we usually said this was a temporary sign during the construction period, and if this was up next year, then they got fined, and then there was like a bulk permitting process without paying the fee, and it was real simple, because I can tell you that 3 businesses in downtown, and Columbus Downtown Development still does the sign grants. 3 businesses are coming to put up signs here pretty soon, so, and we pay $100 and there's leveraging. But the easy way is, and it could be, it's up to you guys, the Plan Commission could come up with some model temporary thing and say, these are fine as long as they're like this, so somebody puts a big old piece of plywood and it says something and you don't like it. But that's how we've handled it, because when we first started this process 20 years ago, a lot of towns got sued over these things. Somebody did one of these and someone had to put a permit in, and they said, how come they get away with that? So we just bulk approved something like this, but if they were up a year later, then they got the fine. So
I think we're saying the same thing.
Sure,
And
sure.
maybe I forgot to say, but there usually isn't a fee for a temporary sign as long as you get it reviewed and approved. And there is a provision in our code for taking down signs, and if you don't, there's a penalty that can be invoked. But, maybe that's all part of your plan. These signs will all be down within 30 days of the opening up of the road. Then they're temporary, none of them are permanent. unless they come in and get something else. But, yeah, I think you're saying the same thing that I'm sure these guys would say if they knew what I was talking about. But it's, as long as it's got a little bit of order to it and we're staying off of places we shouldn't be, and that we all agree on, okay, this is the biggest it's gonna be, this is the general size and shape it's gonna be, and
And a lot of that is covered in the DOT permit, size, shape, color.
it's their
and-
permit, we got our own.
True, yeah, no, I'm saying, so a lot of it, if they're, if they're gonna do a permit through them to put it up as part of the construction, it's also, it's gonna keep it in a certain area anyways, and therefore
Their
it'll,
permit is only for their right-of-way, which
Yeah.
doesn't come into the downtown, they're
True.
gonna be in the downtown, but they don't have construction rights there, that's where we rule.
yeah, there will be some overlap.
Yeah, and they're more concerned about not duplicating or making it look like traffic signals or traffic
Yeah.
signage. And we understand that, we've seen their permits, and we've even got copies here that we give out to people when they're
Yeah.
out on the state highway. So we're all, it's gonna be easier than you think, but we should get going on it
Yeah.
right away.
So, and then the last item that we had on here too was just, we will be talking about doing some temporary handicap, stalls on some of the side roads. Because
Requesting that,
it's part of the whole process too,
make sure it's
so.
part of the list.
Yeah, yeah. So it's going to kind of shotgun you with a lot of information that we will be seeing a little more hard data on, since we are kind of quickly approaching. Again, apologizing for, it's been a while since we've been able to get together with the holidays and stuff, so. Any general questions, anything that would like to know or have in there ahead of time? You can ask now that we can for sure get in the packet and try to save some time for everybody.
I think just as a general statement, I feel like you and Ann are on the same page. It's just getting that list together because, once you get that list together and you implement it, you're probably gonna find something that maybe you missed. And then you're gonna have to kind of come back and readjust. And generally, I'm supportive, but I'm trying to imagine, okay, you have an organized group that with intent, and then you have someone else that sees what you're doing, and then all of a sudden they come in 3 months later and say, we wanna do that. Or they don't ask and they do something different. So if you're asking us to change rules or have some sort of moratorium, we just need a list
Yeah.
of questions to say, are you willing to do this? So we're not just dropping all the rules to say,
Yeah.
hey, guess what? It's anarchy for 6 months and you can't
It's
do anything
probably be
wrong.
pretty close that way.
And
So-
once the signs go up, we will start getting calls and we can say, yes, the council's already approved this, if they're in this area, anything else, they gotta come in here and get their own permission.
Yeah, we just want to know the parameters of where we're going to have to be forgiving and
The
understand it.
30,000-foot view of this is we're trying to take a little bit of load off your shoulders in us knowing what the rules and regulations are, but the sign allows, that we don't have purple signs and all over. And that the businesses can come to us to get approved signs and know where it's gonna go in an approved place. And one of the concepts, and this comes from the DOT project up in Beaver Dam, they pledge to have all the businesses open, walkways get to and from, parking lots. But who knows what parking lot to go to get to business X versus business A? And so these signs would be like in the parking lots saying, use yellow lot to get to these businesses, use blue lot to get, I'm just using the concept here, to get to these businesses. And this, you mentioned about off-premises advertising, I'm not sure if you'd look at that as off-premises advertising or just directional. But that's the kind of adaptation we're looking for and support from the council to be adaptive and be promotive and supportive. And maybe even waiving some fees, that would be a nice monetary support too.
Did I mention there was no cost for a temporary sign?
We'll waive it.
Like,
Once more for the record, Ann, please. Thank you.
Hint, hint. So I guess what we'd need to do is to see a more detailed list of exactly what you want to do, and it certainly sounds like Ann is the person that you'll be talking
Working
to on
with-
this. Yep.
Albeit maybe a dumb question, once we have compiled this wonderful list of lots of information and pretty pictures, what is the next step that we can then get it here? Is it just to go work right through you, Ann, and get it onto?
just come right in and we'll go through and we'll talk. And then we'll make up a list to come to the next council meeting. And, first and third Tuesdays
Yeah.
are always a council meeting, so the Wednesday before, want to see the stuff so that we can get it in the packet.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you generally want to plan on a month too, because then if you have a list that you agree upon, Ann's probably going to tell you, or maybe give you some opinions on what may or may not work. Yeah. but it would have to go through a committee of the whole discussion. You could come back in, and then if there's any issues that we might have with any of the requests, we can deal with that, and then we'd have to have a vote at a regular meeting to amend any official ordinances or take any official action, so you've got a pretty tight timeline.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Guys.
Okay, then I think we're moving on to number 15, which is to consider the contract for the pool resurfacing. This is something that we've discussed briefly. I know, I don't know if there's anything in the packet on this one or not.
There should be the actual contract.
Okay.
And what the council has discussed and approved is moving forward with the project. And that took Amy Jo to work with the contractor, the selected contractor, to determine a contract. We've gone back and forth with the contractor. Paul's reviewed it and to his satisfaction, I believe. And so it's before you to complete the process.
Any questions on this? One thing I'll bring up, just because this is the only time we could discuss it, is I read through all the information about this Interglass product that's going to be used in the pool, and one option they provided was they have multiple colors, not a lot, but I just thought if we're going to, make a major investment in the pool, is this something we want to consider now? And Amy Jo did get a rough estimate, I believe, from the person you've been.
I have some photos as well.
Oh, I think that would definitely help. And I'm not pushing it either way. I just figured this is the time we want to consider it. Maybe it's just not something we do, but I think I'd like to at least look at it. And
Those are my notes. They have a robin's egg.
They don't.
Blue. So the two
not
pictures they have is like a before and an after. Thanks.
Thank you.
They actually have a moon glow, so the pool glows at night, but that's.
Yeah, I like that idea too. A glowing pool.
I think that would be awesome. Can we have night lap swim then?
I'm sorry?
Can we have night lap swim then, if we do a glowing
You could,
pool?
yep.
Have to
So
do
I
that
did
before.
talk to Joe at Mid-America, and the price to do something like this would be an additional $10,000 to $13,000. I don't know if it's something that council would consider or think about, but I think if we're doing an unveiling to the community, this might be something that would be more noticeable up front. I don't think anybody would really understand what has gone into it, but if they saw this, they might notice that it's new. So,
What's the benefit?
it's pretty. Yeah.
So it's strictly just.
It's
Aesthetic.
cosmetic
Aesthetic.
mostly. Yeah, there is really no benefit to it, but
What was the figure you quoted again, Amy Jo?
for the robin egg color would be 10 to 13,000.
In addition to the 173 plus?
Correct.
Okay, Thank you.
Go ahead.
So now we have, sometimes there's I don't know, it looks bad. There's get some black marks on the pool. I mean, and it appears as though maybe the surface is worse than it is. Would this prevent that from happening
Right.
in the
so-
future? I mean, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. So it's actually like a three-step process what they do. The number one thing is obviously prepping the surface. It's called a hydroblasting, where they go in and they use water. It's not really sandblasting, and they remove any residue and paint that's on the surface. At that point, they will remove any hollow spots down to the rebar. And the next step is to repair any cracks. And the final process is called interglass. But prior to that, they actually take a material that's bonded to the existing pool. It's kind of like saran wrap that's heat shrunk to the pool, and then on top of that, they put the interglass. So the surface is smooth. You're not walking on plaster. It's actually a smoother surface. So There's less chemical use once this product is put in place. It's a 25-year warranty. Our heating costs should improve. Water along the gutter line should improve as well. So it really is a good product.
Go ahead, Ron.
So the Robin's Egg Blue would add about 7.5% to the total price, 13,000
Correct.
about.
Yeah.
And that's permanent, obviously.
Mhm.
Probably
One
heat
thing
the
about-
water.
oh.
It'd heat the water an extra little bit, being a little darker, I bet.
A little bit more.
Does
Uh,
it fade?
I would think after time it would
After
fade,
time, but-
like with anything. But one thing that's really neat about the Interglass is they don't spray it on, they actually hand trowel the whole pool to get a firmer fit to the existing shell of the pool. So
Is that
it's a
right
lengthy
in?
process.
Is that painted on top, or is that right in the?
It's right in,
Okay.
the Interglass.
They actually use Kevlar in the process as well. So, I mean, I think we've been talking about relining the pool, but I like the idea of this product because since it's old or aging, I guess, if you have any structural issues, they can go in and correct the structural issues, you know, by grinding them out or whatever. But then when they put the surface on, you don't necessarily have a porous surface like you do right now. So you don't have the interaction between the plaster, the masonry, and the water. You have basically a liner, so you've got a separation between the masonry and the water, and that's why I believe they set up to 50% reduction in chemical usage with this type of a liner, so.
And if the current pool with a crack, that water and chemical is actually getting to the foundation, which causes corrosion to the existing rebar,
Yeah.
this would protect anything from that happening.
And any future structural issues that could come up, they can repair that easily by just going in and removing that area and then blending it into that liner too, so. It seems like a pretty good system to get into now that we've got a pool with a few years on it, and then not having any potential damage to, you know, the pool itself,
Right.
with the chemicals, so.
It's exciting.
Is there any money in the proposal for repair to the kid slide or addressing the kid slide whatsoever? Because, yeah, I'm here again with the kid slide, because that's,
There is no talk that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
We'll have to do some fundraising for it. It would be.
how
a
would that fit in
perfect-
with your time frame, though?
It's
in
cutting
order
it
to do-
close. My concern, and I was on board with you as well, to get the kiddie slide repaired immediately because we maybe get one more year out of it. But I'm thinking if we're doing the resurfacing at this time, if there's new plumbing that has to be addressed, we're kind of ripping apart the surface already.
Or if
And-
we have to go at the surface period?
Next year, if we replace it, what kind of problems would we run into?
Do you have a cost estimate on different?
They range anywhere from 10,000 to 180,000.
Right.
But the
Good.
exact same slide that's right now is 14,700.
Okay,
So that's why I said about 15,000.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're welcome.
Nothing's too crazy for the kids.
So I guess the first thing would be is, you know, are we ready to take the contract forward and go with this contractor and this product? It seemed like we were intending to do that. And then secondly would be, is there any interest at all in looking at that Robin's Egg Blue for an additional cost or not?
Well, I'm comfortable with this contractor and the contract. I guess my 2 cents is if we're willing to spend 13,000 on Robin's Egg Blue, I'd rather get the kiddie slide.
I figured that
Amen.
might, yep,
So.
Yes.
I figured that might be, but I figured we gotta ask the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Rod?
Well, if we can't have both.
If we can't have both. Although I kind of like the white.
I do like the blue,
I
but
like the
I also
blue.
like the kiddie slide also. Well, I don't like this kiddie slide.
Sure.
The kiddie slide is popular.
We've got pictures of you on it, Rod. So we're comfortable with the contract then?
Yeah.
Is it a no on the Robin's Egg Blue or, you know?
That's 13,000, yeah. No.
I'm concerned about getting that slide
Yeah, I'd rather.
back
do-
as well, you know, and if we have any leftover funds, that could help in that cause, so.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
comfortable with
happy
the
we're getting the pool
contractor
done.
and the process, so.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for bringing the option in anyway, Amy
You
Jo. I
are
figured it was the
welcome.
appropriate
Any other
time to
questions
ask.
about the process? timeframe.
Go ahead.
Well, since we're borrowing money anyways, do you want to include the kiddie slide in that borrowing? I don't know. There seems to be,
I don't know if we have consensus.
okay, I don't know if you do, but there seemed to be at least some support. I mean, that's clearly a capital type expense, which can be borrowed for. But
I would fully support it, but I've made
I
that
would
clear.
be in support of that as well, since we're doing the floor. I just don't think it makes sense if we decide to do it in a year, or you fundraise for it in a year, to go into this brand new product and have to open it up to put a slide in. I think it makes more sense to do it all at once if it's possible, and it seems like it might be.
Right, and we all agree that slide needs replacement in the next 12 months, 24 months at best, probably.
We did some fiberglass repair on it last year and painted it and replaced the pad on the landing pad.
That wasn't my fault.
and I don't know how much that slide is used. You know, I don't know if that's the main
It's popular
a main
amongst
draw,
the little
or
ones.
For the
I mean,
little
I don't
kids,
have
you know.
kids.
Toddlers.
The tiny tots.
My 3-year-old
My
gets
7
That's
or
our
9
safe
year old.
zone.
That's where they
Extreme
start out.
use
Yeah.
They got to work their way up to the other slides. I don't know exactly either. I think we had discussed using the unused borrowed funding from the leftover, the street projects to help fund this effort, and I don't know if we know the exact dollar amount on that either.
Yeah, I believe Kim and Jason have talked about that, but I don't know that amount at the top of my head. I mean, we can certainly take a look at that, and see perhaps if some of the amount, final costs came in more favorable.
Yeah. I thought that we were in the 180 range when we had talked about it during budget time, and that's why we decided to cover this expense with those unused borrowed funds. So that was pretty easy, but, if there's a little bit more, maybe
Well,
we've got more money
and-
to go towards the slide too.
And it just occurred to me that, as Davis had been talking, he's seeing some savings from the trucks that they had not
Yeah.
thought
Very
about,
good
so we,
There might be.
there's some room.
Yeah. So it's still a possibility to include the slide in the borrowing, maybe with some contingency or a little wiggle room, and as far as how things shake out, when we finalize the bonding then.
To your point before, I think I heard you raise the question, maybe Joe, about if we're concerned about your project timeframe. What is it?
Well, if we did go with the slide, it is a 10 to 12 week lead time, so we'd have to jump on that bandwagon right away. But as far as Mid-America, they are willing to get started as early as March with the prepping of the surface. As long as temperatures can maintain 45 degrees, they can get in there and start hydroblasting and prepping the surface. And then when it warms up a little bit more, they'll clean it, and then they'll start their process. So they are fully aware that our target date is Memorial Weekend. And they said the latest they would go was that weekend past, one weekend past. So we need Mother Nature on our side. So a good week of 45 would be helpful.
It sounds like you've had good communication back and forth with them as well, huh?
They've been wonderful.
That's good to hear.
So, and even to honor the bid, when they bid this out this summer, so they kept the 60-day, so.
That's great.
Rod, did you have something?
Might be good to get a firmer estimate on the kiddie slide.
I looked into it last week.
Oh.
It's from Fast Corp, and it's the same one that it's been purchased from them before, and they said 10 to 12 weeks, so.
Well, I mean, for the cost estimate or something like that, if we're.
It's 14,700,
Oh, okay.
so.
Is that with,
I've been doing some back
To
research,
replace
just
what
in
we
case.
have, right?
To replace the exact same slide that we have now.
okay, is that just a slide or is that the installation?
We,
Of the slide.
DPW would install it.
Oh, okay. Then it's free.
Okay. They do all the plumbing for it every year.
Oh,
They
okay.
winterize it and take it down, and so they're familiar with everything, so.
Excellent, thank you.
Anything else? All right, I guess we'll bring this to the next regular meeting then.
Yeah,
for-
Thank you all
Yeah,
very much.
Thank you,
If I
Amy
could
Jo.
just continue that, so yeah, we'll be moving the contract to the next regular meeting. In the meantime, I'll work with Kim on, what the numbers look like and the processes going forward on the bonding too, so
Okay.
we'll let you know as soon as we can get those numbers out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then it's on to number 17. That's going to be something that Patrick wanted to discuss with us briefly?
Yeah, just, I shared some information in the packet on a training opportunity that I thought could be beneficial to me professionally and ultimately, hopefully, benefit the organization here. It's not a regular thing that I attend or look at, but it's an opportunity, and I've checked into it. The issue right now is the cost would be a little bit more than my normal budget for training and mileage and those things that I do every year. I didn't anticipate this opportunity to come up, so I felt that to exceed my budget, I wanted to discuss that with you and see what kind of support there was.
I'm all for it.
I think it sounds like a good program. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I commend you for bringing it forward to us as well, Patrick. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor for sure, and I have no issues with increasing that budget line.
Okay.
How would we treat that?
Well, I think that because the curriculum centers around leadership and that kind of thing, I think some of the costs can be spread out that normally those costs are centered around my budget, so I can look at that. Otherwise, probably a small hit to the contingency fund with whatever might be left, but.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, I go to the 2 conferences every year with WCMA, and I think this training falls fairly close to the winter conference, and having done that, I don't think I would need to attend that in favor of this other opportunity, so. Yeah, right, I think Ann makes a good point. There'll likely, at some point this year, be a budget amendment too, so this could be wrapped up in that as well. Yeah.
I don't see it right now, but did you say when this is going to be? Do you know when it's happening?
It's March 20th through 24th.
Okay. Yeah, I think it seems like a good opportunity.
Okay. I know the date very well because I had to run that by my spouse too to make sure that that worked for us. So, and it does.
Yep, I think, I don't know that we need to take any official action on this really either, just more or less letting us know where the finances are going to be drawn from. So,
Yep.
So we're aware.
Right. When we arrange the plan, certainly let you know.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, then it's on to number 18, which is adjourned to closed session per state statutes 19.85 sub 1 sub G to confer with legal counsel for the governing body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved, specifically the Chapel Street Water Tower. Council's willing to go into closed session to discuss this. We need a motion and a second.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and would need to take roll on this.
Crombie,
Nay.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Halak,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Rule,
Aye.
Tome,
Aye.
carries 5-1.
All right, so we'll be going, we will be reconvening to open session only to adjourn with no action after, so thank you.